Cool. So our next speaker is hopefully getting sorted. Um,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm happy to stick around and chat for as long as you want me to. I'm probably gonna head off a little soonish. I think we've gotten Mom's lunch sorted for her, but I need to get my lunch sorted for me now because I'm 2 hours ahead of where you guys are in Scotland.
Yeah. We
But
all I
happy
can
to
see is
stick
that
around.
we're in the last. Sorry. I was just saying,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
all I
you
can
do
see
it.
is we're happy. I think all I can see is that we're in the last hour of the 24 hours.
Oh, is it the last hour? Earlier.
yep.
Yeah.
Final hour.
Oh god.
How you feeling,
We've
Sky?
I'm honestly hearing from amazing speakers like you, Becky, like Malusi, like Lewis, like everyone we've heard from, kind of every time they come on it gives me like a second burst of energy. um so I'm doing pretty great right
Yes.
now.
Although 24 hours is still a long time.
Oh yeah.
Give you a lot of credit. That's a marathon. Um, I I stopped doing all-nighters a few years, a lot of years ago. So, um, yeah, I'm really pleased to come along. Has anybody got any other questions or thoughts or anything they want to talk about while I'm here?
Yeah, if you have any questions for Becky, throw them in the chat. Just to give everyone kind of a quick recap of what's happened. Yeah, we've moved up to £7,000. We had Joy on earlier, and we had a couple of guests come back. We had Case Explosion come back. We had Tristan come back. And we all just kind of hung out and got a bit silly as we fell into the early hours of the morning.
Crazy
Um,
hour.
yes, and then we got to hear from an old university friend of mine and Scottish composer Lewis about coming out as non-binary during lockdown and coming to that realization. And I found that was a really interesting perspective. And it's been one hell of a night. I'm fully aware we have some people who are coming back and joining us um, after going to bed.
Yeah, it's incredible. Sky, just a kind of heads up, we'll be having another speaker joining us very shortly.
That's fantastic.
I'm just sorry. The reason I was quiet there, I'm just sorting out just a couple of technical issues. Nothing big.
I, how are you feeling? Like I've said a lot over the past 12 hours that I had no idea we would get this far.
Yeah, it's tell you what, there's nothing like beating your first goal within 10 minutes of the stream starting, and people's generosity always amazes me. There's always a nice kind of restoring faith in humanity a wee bit about these kind of charity streams, and I think for what was an idea on a piece of paper less than a month ago, we've done a cracking job, if I can say that.
Yeah. I can't deny it's been, I think you and I can both agree, being on screen for 24 hours or on voice for 24 hours has been a bit difficult. We have some questions, I believe, um, in the chat. Um, Someone has a question that, is we don't want to name names, but if a certain children's author has actually affected trans issues in the UK, a certain anti-trans person who has been very vocal on Twitter recently.
I don't think that needs any further explanation. And for those who it doesn't, that they wouldn't be impacted by it anyway, because that's one of the worst kept secrets. My first response to that is very much that the very fact that we can allude to that person without naming names or anything, and almost everybody knows who we're talking about, kind of contradicts the argument that a lot of people that this person has been silenced. It's one of the five wealthiest women in the world, and with over 17 million Twitter followers. She's not going to be silenced anytime soon. Um, Her views are very unfortunately they're part of that unusual thing. There's a group in there's a group in Scotland that very actively campaigns against trans rights, and their leader once said publicly that she was the best friend trans people could ever have, and I, that always boggled my brain as to it's like with friends like her who needs enemies. Um, but there's this bizarre narrative that exists within the people on the far extreme of the opposition to trans rights that, well, first of all, they've totally bought into the idea that this hypothetical sexual predator is going to use gender recognition to to harm women. And I mean, the reality is, and the real problem that we have in Scotland, and if you don't believe me, all you have to do is watch what was dominant in yesterday's news, which was our former first minister, who is an admitted groper and who was criticized by his own attorney in his sexual assault trial, basically trying to bring down the current Scottish government because some women had the audacity to accuse him of sexual assault. Now, that's what's wrong with our society. We don't protect women enough. This idea that somebody would actually go to the trouble of posing to be trans in order to harm women is freaking ridiculous because you don't have to. It's too easy to harm women without having to pretend to be trans. And ultimately, this particular author you're bringing has called a certain amount of attention, but in the long run, I think it's actually energized more allies. The thing that is, it's hard, especially if you spend a lot of time on social media, to realize that the group of people who are actively opposing trans rights are not that large. They number in the tens of thousands. They don't number in the millions. The problem is they have very influential positions. There was a report, a research report published about a month ago, where somebody had gone very discreetly into frontline women's services down in England and discovered that the majority of the frontline workers were very trans inclusive, but most of the CEOs were gender critical. And because the CEOs have all the power and decide what gets said and get what policies go, their one voice outnumbers the hundreds of voices underneath them. And it it sometimes can be quite challenging when you hear somebody with a big platform making a lot of noise. You know, there's a similar power dynamic in the mainstream media. Um, Senior editors and certain very long-standing journalists hold very powerful views against trans rights, and they, until very recently, and I alluded to this in my earlier comments, until very recently, they were couching what they were saying in this reasonable sounding. No, I'm not opposed to trans people's rights. I just don't want them to ever be able to use the same space as I can. And it's only as things have moved along where people are going, okay, first of all, show me the person. This I alluded to this roundtable that I was at in this Justice Committee of the Parliament earlier this week, where two of the more outspoken opponents of trans rights were also given a seat at that table, and both of them sat And we were talking about a very technical piece of the law about protecting freedom of expression. And both of them got into this over emotional, really ranty description of all the circumstances in which they should be free to basically say nasty things to trans people. And you just had to listen to them calmly and rationally to realize these people aren't talking sense. They're talking hate. They're talking about excluding people from legitimate spaces. They're not protecting people. They're actively harming people. And the thing is, Jay,
Sorry,
I'm
do you mind
sorry,
if I just jump in for a wee second? Thank you
the
very
famous
much.
yeah, go ahead.
Thanks very much,
Go
Ewan
ahead. I'm sorry.
Matthews.
I realize I'm
And for the donation. And I believe we've got our next speaker on, Sky.
Yes, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hello, good morning. I'm Lorna Slater. My pronouns are she, her. I am the co-leader of the Scottish Green Party. I believe you heard from my fellow co-leader Patrick Harvey yesterday.
We
Yeah,
absolutely
we did.
Yes.
I just realised it was yesterday.
Are you still going? Have you been going all the while?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is our
I
final
and
hour.
and one of our mods have been going the entire 23 hours so far.
Oh my God, you maniacs! I've just woken. I've just woken up, so I'm not even quite awake yet. Oh, this will be great. So I'm not awake, and you guys haven't slept.
Yeah.
Woo!
We're getting there. We're definitely getting there. But yeah, this is the final hour, so it's well, we're all for it now. Lorna, you'll be pleased to know we've raised an incredible £7,000.
That's amazing. Well
Which-
done.
Our first target was £500, so we have more than 10 times our target, which is jaw-dropping.
Astonishing.
That's wonderful. And what is this money going towards?
This is going all towards the Ayequality Network. So the Ayequality Network are a group that works across a broad range of LGBT issues in Scotland. They look after, I mean, there's a lot of work being done on the I can't even speak now. Legislation side. There's lots of work to support people in the community themselves, whether they're facing particular hardships, but also running events. We heard from Scott Cuthbertson earlier. We've got Becky on the line, and we've also heard from Mel right at the start of the stream. All kind of touching on different areas of what the Ayequality Network do. Becky, do you maybe want to say a couple of words about it?
First, hi Lorna. I'm pretty
Hello.
sure we've met. We have.
Excellent.
Oh gosh.
I don't know.
I'm Becky from Scottish Trans Alliance. I swear we.
Did we do
when
a photo
came through
shoot
the
in
one you-
Glasgow?
Yes.
There is
I was the one who came
photographic
through to do the
evidence of
photo
our
shoot,
meeting.
and- yeah, no, that's correct. And normally I deal direct. I normally talk to Patrick more than you, but yeah, I'm absolutely sitting here going, wait a minute. I know Lorna. I know I'm trying to place a face. I'm not placing a face. I'm doing really.
I'm
badly
super
placing a
famous
face.
now. I was
But-
on telly twice this week.
Yes.
You've made it.
Oh, what a.
Come on.
Hopefully
I-
for good reasons.
I, on the other hand, got to. I don't think Scottish Parliament TV counts, but I got to spend my Monday afternoon talking to John Finney's committee.
Well, that counts.
By-
Scottish Parliamentary telly. I've
by
never
the
been on
way,
Scottish Parliamentary telly, so you're ahead of me there.
Trust me, it's not worth the headache of trying to log into the Blue Jeans platform. By the way, if you happen to get a chance to talk to John in private and off the record, can you tell him that the way he handled himself during the stage 2 debate, there was a certain number of people from LGBT orgs who were virtually high-fiving all over the place listening to the way he handled himself during that debate.
That's wonderful to
no
hear.
way.
I'm so glad. We love John Finney. I'm delighted to hear that, and I will absolutely pass that along.
Yeah, it's
Uh, Be-
he'll know exactly what I mean by that. But yeah, he was a star during that hearing, and it was so much fun to watch.
Becky, I was wondering,
But
do you do you have any social medias or anything, just that our stream team can kind of plug while you're here?
just at scottishtrans.org. Um, I don't do personal social media. I mean, I have accounts, but I've got like 6 followers, and I I stay off of that personally because of as an open trans person with an international professional footprint, I've had people attack my social media, so I just stay clear. And I'm old. I'm at an age where I don't have to, so I don't.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Um,
Yeah, but
I
yeah, please
I
do plug the Scottish Trans channels.
will do. I will throw them in the our chat at the moment. Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's just Scottish Trans is it's just at Scottish Trans on Twitter. Our website is www.scottishtrans.org. Um, and Facebook, just Facebook, Scottish Trans on Facebook.
Thank you. Just in case anyone in our audience wants to follow you guys and get more information. Um,
Brilliant.
yes.
So
So I believe you were just kind of asking if Becky could talk more about what the Equality Network does,
yeah,
Yeah,
just to
particularly for
cover.
trans people.
Yeah,
sorry.
just to cover some of the areas and sort of introduce it to Lorna and kind of catch her up, I suppose. Um,
Yeah, I guess what the part of the thing is, and you know, we've got a long-standing positive relationship with the Green Party. The Equality Network, as Lorna will know, is one of the Scottish government's strategic intermediaries. A a decent sized chunk of our funding is specifically to promote equality and human rights for LGBTI people in general. The Scottish Trans Project focuses specifically on trans people, and we work through a model of consultation, reporting, and research where we learn as much as we can about LGBTI people, and we situate ourselves as knowledgeable in those areas, and then report that information to the government, public bodies, and other influential people in order to improve the day-to-day experiences of trans people and LGBTI people in general in Scotland. And we also try to provide platforms for LGBTI people to speak directly with those in positions of power and to humanize those relationships and make them less about reading research reports and more about meeting the actual people face to face and engaging with them and understanding that, we had a very interesting conversation before you came on, Lorna. Both there's an activist from Eswatini in Africa, and we were talking about the range of the importance of humanizing people's experiences and how LGBTI people have a broader life experience than just being LGBTI, but that it permeates every part of our life, but it doesn't always sit at the front and
Sorry,
center.
just to interrupt. Can we try turning up Becky, please? Apparently, some people are having a bit of a hard time
sure,
hearing her.
sure, I've
Sorry,
done that now.
bad mic. So yeah, so anyway, that's basically it. It's about getting people to understand that LGBTI people are real. We have real needs, we have real challenges, and and we're we're not the existential threats that certain people would cast us. We're just real people trying to get on with our lives.
And that's, I think, the key message, isn't it? It's something that frustrates me endlessly. The sort of mischaracterizations and things that are out there at the minute, when it's like, just let the trans get on with their lives, for heaven's sake.
That's all I want to do. All I want to do.
Agreed.
Uh,
Yeah, but we
What a wonderful show of solidarity that you've hit £7,000 in your fundraiser. That's enormous. I think that sends the positive message that there are people out there who've got your back.
There's a lot of good
Yeah.
people watching.
Speaking of a positive message, we got a question earlier for Becky, but I'd like to hear Lorna's as well. I'm just trying to scroll up and see where it is, because a lot has been said in the chat. What would you both say is the biggest success you've seen for trans rights in your times as activists and politicians and stuff?
So that's an interesting question. So I became co-leader of the Scottish Greens in 2019, but I feel like there hasn't really been any good news, because I feel like it's all kind of gone downhill, because I remember, let's say 10 years ago, when all this sort of bathroom stuff in America was happening, and I was like, oh God, that's ridiculous. Geez, I'm so glad that doesn't happen here and everybody can just use the bathrooms that they want to use. And then I guess I don't really feel like I have much positive to say about the bigger picture. I mean, certainly in terms of individuals, I know some individuals who have wonderful personal stories, but yeah, it does all seem a bit bleak. So I'd actually like to hear some positive stories if there are some.
if I could respond to that, I started officially as a trans activist in Scotland just about 10 years ago now, and you're the period probably from 2010 to 2015 was probably one of the most positive periods in Scotland for trans people. In 2014, the Scottish Parliament passed the equal marriage legislation that was one of the first, although it was the 39th nation in the world to pass same-sex marriage, it was the first to explicitly have clauses in it that protected the rights of trans people. In 2009, the current hate crime offenses motivated by hate act that was passed was the first piece of legislation in in Europe to explicitly have transgender identity as part of the law. In 2012, the Scottish NHS implemented a treatment protocol for trans people. Again, a very leading thing. And you're right, Lorna. We were trending upwards brilliantly till around about 2015. And in 2015, I think all those forces in because in the United States and elsewhere saw Scotland as a ripe target to attack and try to um, undermine LGBT rights in general and trans rights in particular, and especially during the period that you've now been in leadership with the Greens and that we've seen over the last 3 to 5 years, the attacks have been relentless. I tried to say by means of reassurance to some of the younger listeners earlier that for as horrible as the last few years have been, we're still way ahead of where we were in 2010. And that's something that we've got to hang on to and recognize that the path to equality is not linear. We get tips and we're still working hard and we're still doing better. So yeah, Scotland, for all of the dodginess of the last couple years, is still, we went from being number one on ILGA Europe's map for LGBT people back in 2015 to being about number seven, but we're still number seven. And we're fighting to keep that going. It's not trending well, and we can't pretend like it's not trending well, but there's a big part of me who's been very active in this for a very long time, who actually has a strong sense that what we've seen happening in the public forum in just the last month represents a turning point. And
Yes, I've been hoping that as well. because the Scottish Greens have always had such a clear stance on this. Our Women's Network put out our lovely statement of solidarity last year. We've been kind of sitting on the sidelines, waiting for everyone else to catch up to us. So we were a bit of an outlier for a while for having such a clear position, and we were feeling a bit, oh gosh, things aren't going well out there. But it's really nice to see that change of direction in some of the other political parties, and I'm really hoping that those will be formalized and made official positions. Yeah, because it was getting pretty alarming.
Yeah, and we're not out of the swamp yet by any stretch of the imagination, but there's been signs that people are beginning to recognize that the outspoken voices against trans equality are they're an influential group of people, but they're not actually that spectacularly large, and that the people who are the future of Scottish politics, the younger people, the more inclusive people, are not opposed to trans equality. And I think Scotland's future is actually very bright. The present is a little bit murky, but the future is very bright.
That's a lovely way to put it, Becky. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is reassuring. It is. I think there was another a question for you, Becky, that I might have missed, which was what you've seen as a difference from your time in the US and time in Scotland. I'm assuming particularly towards LGBT stuff.
And we can ask Lorna the exact same question as well, because Lorna, I think you're a new Scot as well, aren't you?
I am, although I've been in the UK a very long time. So I arrived in the UK with a lot of student debt and a backpack and a one-way ticket in 2000, as you do when you're young and think, I'll just immigrate to another country. How hard can it be? Yeah, so I've been here since 2000. So I've really spent, other than being a student, I've really spent my entire adult life here. So that's 20 years ago. That I came 21 years ago now. So yeah, I kind of almost can't remember. But when I was at university, even in the 90s, even being gay was still a bit unusual. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, with that, we've come so far on LGBT issues. Generally, it's a different world than it used to be. So my university was on the west coast of Canada, very liberal, very very green, very very chilled about stuff. It wasn't, it's when the first Green Party person in North America or in Canada was elected, they were from the West Coast. So it's always been that kind of chilled vibe there. But it wasn't something we talked about particularly. It wasn't something, I was maybe unusual as having one. Everyone's got a gay uncle, right? But like that was maybe a bit unusual. We didn't talk about it that much. Yeah, it was kind of a different world 20 years ago than where we are now. And I remember even when I was in high school. So this is proper ancient history. In the late 80s and early 90s, we did in our sort of section relationships education. They did mention being gay, but the advice at the time was it's completely fine to be gay, but don't come out while you're in high school. Basically, for your own safety, don't come out while you're in high school. Stay in that closet, until you're 18 and can get out into the world. Well, actually, I'd be interested to hear from younger people what they think about that advice. That was the advice that young people were being given 25 years ago.
Wow, you're just a wee bairn, aren't you? In a high school in the 80s and 90s. You didn't join when I mentioned to people. The first picket line I marched in was in 1969.
Oh, good heavens, Becky. A venerable elder you are, darling.
I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I grew up in an environment of weirdly a weirdly liberal place in the middle of a deeply conservative state. Wisconsin's a kind of a funny place. The first openly gay U.S. senator was Tammy Baldwin from Madison, and I
I've
had the
heard the
pleasure.
name, yes.
Tammy's quite famous. I worked on some of her campaigns, and the but I also, my background is in trade unions, and the reason that I work mostly in the justice sector is because I grew up. My dad was a cop, and I grew up in a small town police station in Wisconsin, and I worked for 20 years in the Wisconsin prison system on the front lines. When you talk about, I was raising my children in the 80s and 90s, and actually, the 90s were probably the worst gay panic decade that we had. We were on the backside of the AIDS epidemic, and conversion therapy, especially religiously driven conversion therapy, was rampant.
That's
There were
horrendous. I didn't know that.
one of the most widely cited pieces of research about trans young people is the thing they call desistance statistics, and it's based on a study that was done by a rather dodgy Canadian. Don't worry, Eastern Canadian. He was Toronto based. Uh, um,
That's good bit of insider Canadian politics knowledge there, Becky. Gold star for that.
um,
There's an east-west thing in Canadian politics.
listen, Wisconsin's practically Canada. In fact, most people can't tell my accent from Canadian.
No, I can't. You'd sound Canadian to me.
Yeah, but it's but anyway, there during the 90s, and this particular piece of research, what they did is they took the young people who were presented to a gender clinic in Toronto by parents, and they discovered like 95% of the kids who were presented in the 90s, by the time the 2010s rolled around, they had come out as gay or bi, but very few of them had transitioned as trans. But the flaw in that, and even the original researcher said, was that parents were panicking and rushing their kids to gender clinics if they displayed any non-normative gendered behavior. So you were getting lots of kids who later grew up to be gay, or lots of kids who just wanted to play with unconventional toys, trotted off to gender clinics in the 90s.
Wow,
We had
that's really alarming, isn't it?
when we came down here to South Africa, but Lorna, I'm in Johannesburg right now. We're caring for my wife's mom. She's 80 and had a bit of a medical scare back in January, so we had to rush down here. But the very first time I came down here, probably about 6, 7 years ago, we had this funny conversation with mom. My wife is also a trans woman, and mom is a really amazingly lovely, understanding person who just turned 80 this past year. And at one point, the conversation turned to, why didn't you come out when you were younger? I would have done the right thing. And we had to explain to her that this existed in both of our lives, even though we did it a half a world apart. That if we had come out when we were younger, a well meaning parent would have done what was the right thing at the time, which was
Mm,
trot us off to a psychiatrist who would have locked us up in an institution, attached us to a motorcycle battery, and showed us pictures of dolls and zapped us
mm.
every time we looked at it. Because that's
That's
what
horrendous.
was being done, and that was as recently as the 70s and 80s. Um,
Mm.
so that's when I say to people that it seems really, really rough right now, but be encouraged, because within my lifetime, it's been horrifically worse. Couple of years
That's
ago, there
really useful for context, Becky, actually, to understand that. Because you're right, we do tend to kind of look at where we are and go, "Oh goodness, it's so far from where we want to be." But you're absolutely right. We should look at it in that kind of larger context. I actually
it,
had a question for you, Becky.
yeah. If
Um,
can I just, before we change the
yeah,
subject,
sorry.
there's one other thing I want to tie in that you might connect a little closer to, Laura. Do you remember about, oh gosh, it must have been 2016, 2017, there was a bit of a kerfuffle at Glasgow Pride that involved some young trans people at the at the front of the march, protesting the police leading the march, and it erupted into a little excessive force by the police. I participated in the after action meeting with the police where we were highly critical of the way they handled that situation. And it was quite profound when the woman who leads LGBT health and well-being said she was sitting on the top of an open bus and she was looking down, seeing the police putting their hands on young LGBT people, and she was having post-traumatic flashbacks to a period that was only 15 years ago when the Glasgow police used to routinely beat up gay people in the streets. We're not that far removed. We've made massive progress, but it's still deeply held in a lot of older LGBT people's memories.
I can believe that. You can't just let go of that kind of trauma, can you?
No, it does. It sticks with you forever. What part of my work, I work with the police a lot to try to get them to behave much better. And the first thing I do is when I walk in the room and I say, I don't care what you're wearing. I don't care that you've got the badge and the uniform until you prove it. You're not the good guys. You have to prove that you're the good guys. You can't automatically assume you're the good guys. And then I say it's not just because we have lots of immigrant cultures in our country that come from countries where the police are genuinely the bad guys, but it's because there's a pretty long cultural memory within the LGBT community of only a generation ago, you guys were beating us up in the streets. So, yeah, those things, it requires work. And to the credit of the current leadership of Police Scotland, they try. Not everybody gets it right, but they understand that message and they get told it on a fairly regular basis. But those are things, those are things that we still live with today. And I think that it's sometimes in the context of what you're saying about we forget where we've been, is even the people who are supposed to be doing things better for us forget. They think that because they got it right for the last year erases the 20 years before, and it doesn't.
Brilliant. Lorna,
That's
you had
br-
a question for Becky.
Yeah, it was more kind of a personal one that is of interest to me. So, as we discussed my age, I'm 45, so I'm coming into, you know, I'm solidly middle aged. Looking forward to kind of my next stage of life, and something that I'm interested in reading more about is the sort of the power of older women and that sort of the power of the crone, you know, and what what to look forward to in the next stage of life, because a lot of women of my age are kind of reasonably I don't know, sad, depressed, not looking forward to the next stage of life. And that's partly with how we pitch these things to women, that, you know, youth is everything. And, you know, if you're straight, once men don't fancy you anymore, what are you even useful for? And I'm always interested when I meet older women is to ask them kind of what their experience is. What are we looking forward to in the next stage of life? What should I be doing in middle age to prepare myself for the next stage of life, Becky? So I'm speaking to you as a sort of as an elder, as an older woman. What wisdom would you pass on to someone who's sort of one step behind you there?
Um, it's interesting that I'm now speaking as an American to a Canadian who have both immigrated to Scotland. Um, there's a thing there's a there was a moment, and it was right around my 50th birthday, and it coincides with my transition, where I just said fuck it. I I just looked at the world and said from this point forward, I'm not going to try to please people anymore. If I'm going to be who I am, I'm going to be how I am. And if you like me, you like me. And if you hate me, you hate me. And I can't control that. One of the greatest lessons that I was taught in my life, much younger than that, it was the first time I had a supervisory position in a job, and a good friend of mine who I had gone from being a peer to being their supervisor, um, took first of all, he spent the better part of 2 months making my life a living hell and making me being as difficult for me to supervise as there was. And finally, when I just sat him down as a friend, I said, you know, what's the problem? He says, you're trying to please everybody. He said, I'm making your life miserable because you keep trying to please me. Just be yourself, do your thing, remember that even Mother Teresa had people who thought that she was a bitch. And the nastiest, and the
I think you should get that on a shirt, Becky.
and the
That was a
nastiest
cracker.
and the nastiest person in the world still goes home to a family that thinks they're the greatest person on the planet. You can't
Because the
live.
problem with being in politics, of course, is that you have to be likable. So, as my role as co-leader, I am this one of the two spokespeople for the party, and people often judge how much they like a political party on how much they like the leader of the party, how likable that person is. And of course, women are pressured to be likable anyway.
Yeah,
And so I feel like in that role, I very much do have to try and be likable and nice because that's my responsibility to win votes. Like, we're trying to save the planet here. I always feel this enormous pressure that, if I come across as too abrasive or too this or too that, then people go, oh, well, I don't like her, I'm not going to vote green. Then climate catastrophe will happen, everyone will die, it'll have been my fault. This is why I
and
don't sleep well.
this is the thing that we women do all the time is we try to carry the whole world on our shoulders, and we're conditioned to do that. We're conditioned to make everything better. We do it when we do it as we raise our children. We do it as we care for our elders when they need us. We do it in positions of leadership. And one of the more toxic messages is that exact one that you said, that I have to be pleasant to be likable, because an aggressive man, a self-confident man is aggressive. A self-confident woman is angry. Um, and until enough of us stand up and just be ourselves, and and on those moments when we're a little disagreeable, the thing is, you can always be decent and civil. That doesn't mean you have to be passive. People, my personal experience is people respect. Yep. Now I've got it. I do still, although having now been in Scotland for 10 years, I'm kind of losing this get out of jail free card. But I have if ever I overstep a line in a room, I can always just go, I'm an uncultured American. I never learned any manners, um, and it's worked up to this point. Although I think it's fading now. But I honestly believe that people actually like you better if you're genuine. People know somebody who's fake nice. People, I think people in the long run, and yeah, there's you're right. There's there's an unfair standard placed on women, and I'm I just I just reached a point where I stopped fighting those battles. And I know as a political party leader, you're still right in the middle of that. But it was funny when I stopped fighting. That's when I started winning.
Isn't that interesting? Interesting. So, well, thanks for answering that question. I really appreciate that. It's just something I'm fascinated with at the moment.
I can understand. Yeah, it is
Um,
fast.
yeah, it's been great listening to you guys talk. Just
I'm,
yeah,
I'm,
it's
I'm
been
not gonna lie. I personally quite enjoyed sitting back there and shutting up for a bit.
You guys
No,
must
it
be
was.
yeah.
exhausted.
No, a little bit as well. Yeah, we have been hosting this together for. We're almost there. We're 15 minutes away.
15 minutes.
Well,
15
15
minutes.
minutes away, and then we're going to get in I think the mod team and let the stream kind of see who's all been working behind the scenes to keep us afloat.
Yeah, there's been a power of work done in the background, and I'm sure all of our speakers who have been in the Discord server and have ran into all of them, they've done a power of work, all while we've been on stream for the most part. Um, so yeah, just delighted.
I suppose.
Go
Yeah,
on, Scott.
I was going to say kind of any closing comments and stuff from the pair of you. And any
Just
social medias or anything you'd want to,
yeah,
or
yeah.
websites.
Yes, so I mean, do follow. We've got an election coming up, 10 weeks down to the Scottish election. So obviously, vote for the Scottish Greens. That goes without saying. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lorna Greens. The Twitter's pretty much entirely politics. My Instagram is a mix of politics and circus nonsense, but I can't fit a flying trapeze rig into my house, so it's mostly handstands. Bad handstands at the moment. But if you're into bad handstands, by all means follow my Instagram. So
And I think I've probably already talked your ears off. Thanks everybody for everything. I'm just overwhelmed by the amount what you've raised for the Equality Network. I'm super pleased with the support, and it's really reassuring when you do the job that I do, where sometimes you're forced, like I was saying, but things like last week, sitting into rooms where you have to smile and nod and be a good girl while people say just absolutely vile things about yourself and people like you. Um, it's always good to spend some time in a forum where everybody is openly decent and friendly and nice to you. And this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We raised another £100 right at the end there, putting us up to £7,109.94. Which
I'm not gonna lie, that 94 pence has given me a bit of a does anyone want to
sausage roll
donate
for that,
6p? Can't believe they do this to us. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and I think Becky might have exited already.
yeah.
she's away.
That's
Thank
about
you.
it.
Thank you for coming on, Lorna.
Not at all. Thanks for having me. Best of luck and well done. Congratulations again on your successful fundraising.
Thanks very much, Lorna. It's been a blast, and thanks for taking the time. I know you've got a very busy schedule, so appreciate it.
Not to worry. Have a great day.
Have a good Sunday.
Have a good Sunday. Just before I think we bring the mod team in, I just wanted to be like, how are you doing?
Think we've done all right, Sky. I think it's been a good one. I'm looking forward to my bed. I have to change my sheets before I get to lie down.
I made my bed about half an hour ago.
See, that was a good tactical decision on your level. But no, I think, like, think of all the chats we've had over the past 24 hours. That was dumb. I'm sure anyone who's viewed, and I know that people kind of caught the start of the stream, and then obviously they've got a sleep schedule because they're sensible, and then they went on and they joined this morning and saw how much we'd kind of gathered. It's just been great.
It's been amazing. Just for the people who are here now, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
I feel like we're gonna have to. Wait, are you getting the mods in?
No, I just quick.
Quick
Obviously
about
we
me.
sat here in the background. Yeah, quick about you.
Oh right, sorry. I thought you were talking about another speaker that was joining. All right, well I'm AyeforScotland. So I've ran a Tumblr blog for my sins since about 2013. If you haven't gathered, AyeforScotland is unequivocally a pro-independence blog, but it's kind of grown arms and legs, and I do quite a lot of commentary on Scottish culture. I cover stuff like languages. I'm a big fan of Scottish Gaelic. I'm literally wearing a Gaelic Mafia t-shirt. Big fan of Scots language as well. It's a language. It's definitely not. It's definitely not slang. We've had. I think from my side, I do YouTube videos. I've obviously stream on Twitch, and all the rest of it. And I think it's probably a good time, if it's all right with everyone, we'll just recap all of the speakers that we've had on, because I think it's definitely worth sort of recapping.
Can I do myself real quick?
You
as
can
a
give
bit of an
yourself a shout
introduction?
out for Sky, and then we'll recap all the speakers.
Okay, I am Sky Black. I have been the co-host of this fantastic event. I planned this together a month ago. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you all for coming out. In my free time, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a writer, I'm a YouTuber, and I'm the editor of the AyeforScotland videos. Thank you all for coming. I am also a Twitch streamer. I forgot to mention that one. Thank you all for coming. You can find me as Sky Black on most things except on Twitter, where I'm Black Sky. And yeah, if you want to do, I think maybe we should just pull in the mods for the recap so we can have everyone here.
Yeah, let's pull in the mods for the recap, and then we'll go through each and every one, and then we can all just go kind of nuts, to be honest. We've made it. Mods, would you like to join us?
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Would you
Hello.
all like to introduce yourselves?
Who's first?
We'll go alphabetically, so we'll start with chorus and work our way down the list.
Cool. Hey everyone. I'm.
You cut out chorus.
Sorry, I thought I just heard a really big bang from somewhere in the house.
Oh
I'm
no.
exhausted. Anyways,
What's
hi.
happening?
I'm Chorus.
I heard a weird noise.
I'm
I will say, just remember, the longer you guys all take, you're keeping me away from my bed. So let's roll. Can we get some introductions on the mod front, please?
sorry. Yeah, hi, I'm Chorus. Just been here helping out in the background.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. I'm exhausted.
Prince
Okay,
chorus
but-
on most social media.
Well, I'm sitting here with Keith just now.
Hello.
I have been awake for the entire thing. I can feel my organs vibrating.
I just woke up.
Thank you for donating and making it worth staying up for. You've been amazing.
Do you have your social medias and websites you want to plug?
Yes, I will drop them into the chat in just a second.
Perfect. Sega or Saga? if you
Saga.
can-
Saga, yeah. Hey, yeah, I'm Saga. I've been hunched over the Twitch chat like a little gremlin of the night, so I've been quite quiet everywhere else. But yeah, no, it's a little bit surreal. £7,000 is kind of insane. So no, thank you to everyone. It's been a wild ride.
Do you have any social media or stuff?
What I will do, I will get Harley to drop my Twitter in. Just seen as
Perfect.
they're on it.
Shooter?
Yeah, I'm Shooter Boy. I've been bouncing around doing bits of pretty much everything over the course of the stream. You've seen me in the mod chat and plenty in the background. No social medias because I'm the internet equivalent of a hermit.
Wonderful. And Torn?
Hi, I'm the one responsible for the persona. Tenakoto, Tenakatato Koto. I am Ton, just the little American artist here that popped in for the end of the stream to help mod. Yeah, that's about it.
Do you have any social medias?
Nobody wants to follow my social medias. You'll follow for the art that I post once every year, and then you'll get me screaming about nothing. So, thanks for all the amazing modding, everybody, and the team, and everyone's amazing donations. Love to see it. We love to see
Well,
it.
we
We
have
sorry,
5 minutes before the end as well.
I would like to say a specific thank you to my partner Jessica, who's also been an absolute trooper for me throughout the stream. She's been diligently managing all the social media, as well as doing a bit of moderation. So shout out to
Absolutely, well done,
Jessica.
Jess.
And as
Well
opposed
done,
for
yeah.
looking dry as well.
Amazing.
In the
There was
last,
also,
sorry, go on, Sky.
there was also another mod who couldn't be here with us at the end. If anyone wants to say thanks to them or to her, that would be. I'm very like I'm unable to talk anymore.
Yeah,
But-
Shark had to be away, but she was a wonderful mod, and hopefully she'll watch this back and know that we love her.
Fantastic. I suppose just to kind of quick recap, if you've been with us for the 24 hours, that's great. But here are some of the people that have spoken in no particular order. I'm literally just reading off the Discord. We had Becky Kaufman from Equality Network. We had Liam Dryden. We had Lorna Slater. We had Scott Cuthbertson. Sophie, Tristan, and Erin from the End Conversion Therapy team. We had Blair Anderson. We had Casey Explosion. We had David Paisley. We had Fiona Robertson, Jordan Daly, Joy Demora, Kat Carey, Lady Phil. I'm keep on going. We've had Lamadia. We've had Mel from the Equality Network. We had Malusi from Eswatini. We had Mary Black, we had Mriddle, we had, oh my goodness, we had Lewis, we had Rob McDowell, we had Sarah Chung, we had Steph Payton, we had Teddy Hope, we had Patrick Harvey, and I really hope I haven't missed anyone. Please tell me I haven't missed anyone. But yeah, we have had, over the past 24 hours, the most fantastic collection of people.
And the
Oh,
most
yeah.
fantastic support that I've ever been a part of as well.
It has been absolutely overwhelming
sorry.
how this response has been.
We did mention Joy.
Yes, I said Joy. Sorry if that went past it. Yeah, Joy Demora was on and gave up a lot of her time. You know, and I think that was from 3 o'clock until about 8. So Joy put in a hell of a shift on the speaking side.
Thank
we're
you
entering
to everyone who
the final
showed
minute.
up and donated. Everyone who shared on social media. The mod team who all did a fantastic job and kept it running. I guess I can't thank myself. That's egotistical. And I for obviously hosting us for 24 hours. And
Shout out to
Thank you.
Eye's thumb that's blistered.
and thank you to Hollow Knight.
Hey, look, we smashed Hollow Knight. See that challenge? That challenge was beaten in 19 hours. So that was just excellent. I'm glad, and now I'm ready for the sequel if Team Cherry want to actually get
Bring it on.
there. But yeah, that's. I mean, we're pretty much there. In
We are there.
Couple of
the clock
seconds.
has clicked over.
And there we go. It's clicked over completely, and oh no, it's restarted. Jesus, no,
Yay!
no,
Okay.
that's not what we're doing.
More. Make it
What?
stop! Make it stop!
Make it stop.
24-hour stream.
That's strong enough.
Our total is £7,235.66. I think we nailed it.
With the bits and subscriptions to go.
And yeah, we'll be topping it up with the Twitch subscriptions or bits or anything else that came. I'm off to my bed.
Yeah,
Me
see, we
too.
smashed it. We're away now.
I'm
We're
away.
for several days.
I'm away for a
Yeah.
snooze, but again, thanks to everyone who donated and everyone who's been keeping us company in chat. Thanks to our speakers, and thanks very much to our fantastic mod team, without whom this would not have run half as smoothly or be half as well organised. So yeah, thanks very much, folks, and we will. I'm not gonna say see you in the next one. That'll be a wee while yet, but I'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Bye,
Cheers,
everyone.
folks.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.